What good is a neighborhood store? You know the kind of place I mean, an ordinary storefront on any city block. Maybe a convenience store or a diner, a hair salon, any business. These are just part of the ordinary background of life, the essence of mundane. What could they have to do with huge global issues like climate change or social inequality? Storefronts, as ordinary spaces for small businesses like these, can be a force for good in cities. They can even contribute to the warmer city being a more just and livable one. Storefronts are a small solution that simultaneously addresses multiple overwhelming and increasingly urgent problems we face as a society, particularly in our cities. This small solution can advance climate change adaptation and mitigation, social justice and equality, and economic sustainability in intertwined, mutually reinforcing ways. Regarding climate change, the warmer city needs to be a more walkable city. Because simply more walking means less driving. Less driving matters because transportation is a very big contributor to climate change through greenhouse gas emissions. Transportation is about 1/4 to 1/3 of greenhouse gas emissions. And in some places, like here in Syracuse, New York, where I am, it's even more, as you can see. To put that into perspective, the President's climate change plan from a few years ago called for a reduction of about 25% of greenhouse gas emissions, meaning transportation is roughly equivalent to that entire reduction. Now, obviously, we can't just simply eliminate transportation, but it's a very good place to target for cuts. A walkable city is one where residents don't need a car to live their daily lives, and vibrant neighborhood retail is an important step towards that goal. Neighborhood retail, and of course safe, appealing pedestrian environments near it, lets local residents reduce or even eliminate longer car trips to distant stores. Suddenly picking up milk or diapers no longer means a drive to Walmart, but rather can be worked into the fabric of daily life. It makes it easy. This ease points to another benefit of neighborhood retail. It helps make urban neighborhoods more attractive to other residents, people who have choices about where to live or work, choices that can include car-centered suburbs. This increased appeal to people not yet living in urban neighborhoods is vital to supporting and encouraging redensification in our cities, which is people moving back into urban cores. Redensification is a primary reason why greenhouse gas emissions from transportation are actually predicted to fall in the U.S. in the next several years, even if we do nothing differently than what we're doing right now. Neighborhood retail also increases the jobs available within the neighborhood to those without cars, which eliminates the need for a long commute for those with cars. Another important way neighborhood retail fights climate change is through the adaptive reuse and revitalization of existing urban neighborhoods instead of building new suburban development. Every new strip mall or subdivision requires energy through the materials and processes of construction, not only for the buildings, but also for the infrastructure they require, things like roads and utility lines. That new development also reduces land available for other climate change mitigation strategies like carbon sequestration or heat island mitigation through vegetated areas. In contrast, many urban neighborhoods have large amounts of vacant or underused buildings and lots waiting for redevelopment. Storefronts also push the city toward greater social equality. Walkable neighborhoods are fundamentally more just because they allow residents to have equal access to amenities and resources without needing to buy, maintain, or drive a car. This is of special interest in places like Syracuse, New York, where I am, because we are one of the poorest cities in the U.S. We're the 29th poorest city in the U.S., and we have the highest concentration of African American and Hispanic poverty in the U.S., which means the most African Americans and Latinos living in extreme poverty areas. That's a finding from a recent report by Paul Dragowski for the Century Foundation. So the expense of a car, as you can see, is a tremendous amount of your income if you are a person living in poverty, and that's a special interest in poor cities like Syracuse, but it's of interest everywhere. Walkable neighborhoods are a great advantage not just to those who can't afford to drive, but also to those who can't due to age or disability. This includes teenagers who don't yet have a driver's license. The creation of additional jobs in the neighborhood fights the spatial mismatch of urban residents and suburban jobs, an old idea, William Julius Wilson's idea, but still a very relevant one to cities today. It's not like we've solved it all. A newer idea is the promotion of startups, generally tech-related businesses founded and staffed by people with high levels of education. Small retail can form a part of startup efforts that's open to people with less education and fewer resources. This is particularly true of restaurants. The opportunity to move into a neighborhood storefront can provide the next step on the ladder for pop-up restaurants or other businesses. At the same time, neighborhood storefronts advance the economic sustainability of the city, a major concern in challenged urban neighborhoods, particularly in cities like Syracuse, where poverty is an ongoing issue. Storefronts provide a scalable economic development investment that's small enough to duplicate in many places, increasing the chance for success and the number of people who see development monies as benefiting them. The demonstration of investment in a challenged urban neighborhood can improve the perception of that area by both residents and those outside the neighborhood, seeing it as a place where good things are happening, where the future is on an upswing, where progress is being made. Small solutions like investment in neighborhood storefronts may seem like they're just a tiny drop in the bucket of the huge bucket of climate change, but that very small size is what can sidestep the dysfunction and the financial limits that we've come to see characterize many institutions. A good small solution is implementable at a local scale with limited resources. It's also repeatable in many other areas, which greatly increases its potential impact. Smallness makes it doable. Repetition makes it matter. Experiential learning has been hot now in pedagogical circles for a while, but it's been business as usual in architecture and studio design fields for as long as anyone can remember. It's simply the way you learn to design. We all know about the appeal of hands-on learning over passive listening in lectures, but another strength of experiential learning is its ability to authentically engage high-level theoretical ideas and practical situation-specific application at the same time. The two can be tied together in ways that are often completely absent from the classroom, too often absent from the classroom. This helps make unfamiliar course matter or topics more accessible to a diverse student body or audience. It's a really useful strength in approaching potentially controversial topics like climate change or social justice. Done well, this instructional approach taps into students' energy and activism, especially for more hands-on learners who can be left out with more traditional educational approaches. What I really most enjoy about teaching this sort of class is that it is an unparalleled idea generator, and really, how better could you spend your time? The course I've proposed is a hybrid of discussion seminar and project-based workshop. We'd incorporate campus-wide sustainability events, usually lectures or films, into the seminar portion, as well as do reading-based discussions. These discussions would feed into the project side of the course, where students will do a series of smaller individual projects that build into a large semester-long product by each student. These projects will all engage the potential impact of neighborhood storefronts on climate change and inequality, but students can develop proposals in programming, policy, urban design, or a mixture of any of those. Each project is a vision, one possible future, for a small, to-be-determined portion of one city, in this case, Syracuse, New York. Each project will demonstrate how that future could be more just and more sustainable, a better life in a warmer world. The audience for these visions will be a broad array of community leaders, drawn from both on-campus and off-campus. The Storefronts for Good topic arose out of a series of conversations with a group of these leaders, handpicked to represent different points of view about Syracuse's urban neighborhoods. You see these names on this slide. This course will keep this conversation going and expand it to other members of the public through events presenting student work and through an ongoing social media presence. Conversations like this with community leaders cross the town-gown boundary, as well as the invisible but strong ones between disciplines and related professions. Even the activist communities surrounding social justice and climate change can be quite separate from each other, and neither one necessarily shares much common ground with economic development interests. This kind of boundary crossing, it can be uncomfortable. It can also be difficult. So why bother? Why is it worth it? Because it is exciting. Everyone is energized. Students, community leaders, even me as the instructor. This kind of connection across boundaries is universities at their best. I plan to recruit students from academic units all across campus, from public administration to African American studies to law. Because everyone gets great things out of this kind of course. Students get the chance to speak and to be treated like professionals, even as experts, which is really just an invaluable bridge into the working world beyond graduation. It's a wonderful experience for them. They also get a fledgling professional network, at least with some local contacts, and good insight into some post-grad career paths. Plus, they get the chance to work on real-world problems. Community leaders get a fresh crop of ideas unbiased by previous work or tensions. This is worth quite a bit with intractable problems, the kind of things where people are kind of dug in on either side. It can really help establish common ground between those on opposite sides of contentious issues. It's student work, so people let down their guard a little bit, and everybody kind of has fun with it. The community collaborators I've worked with through classes have really enjoyed working with the students and the projects. It can be just a fun, upbeat way to look at some of what they do in a new light with some new people outside their regular circles. And of course, what the university or department gets is easy to see: outstanding visibility and publicity within many different audiences, as well as a dynamic course and engaged students. Beyond that, though, what good will it do? It's called Storefronts for Good, so what good will it do? This course will increase recognition of the value of neighborhood storefronts, and more broadly, the value of small, manageable actions in fighting climate change and inequality. It will demonstrate the overlap of sustainability and justice and economic development, showing how an outcomes-based approach can allow greater collaboration between these often diverging interests. We'll also be honing a course structure and a stakeholder engagement process that can be adapted to address other climate change or just city topics in other cities or at other institutions. All of this adds up to Storefronts for Good, Local Action Through Coursework, a presentation by me, Susan Dieterlin, of Deaf Space Lab, for a course proposed at Syracuse University. I welcome your comments and questions, so feel free to contact me either by email or through the comments on this page. Thanks very much for watching.